I'm Jonathan Drendel. I've been a Christian for 5 years, and this is my story. So I met Christ when I was a little boy. I was about 8 years old, and I was going to a pretty big church, and there's a sermon that it really kind of struck my heart, and I knew I needed to accept Christ into my life. And early on, I was really hungry and really wanted to follow Jesus, but in reality, what I wanted was Him to fix my life. And I heard the gifts of the Spirit, and I really wanted to take hold of me, and it really didn't sink in like it was supposed to. And I was baptized and everything, but the meaning really didn't sink in. And early on in my life, wrestling became a huge part. When I was 8 years old, I started wrestling, and from then on out, my whole life was all about wrestling. And everything I did was working towards wrestling. And in high school, I got good grades so I could go to college and wrestle. A college career. And my dream was to be Olympic champion. And by the time I graduated high school, I had gotten a scholarship to wrestle at the United States Olympic Education Program. And so I could start working towards my dream of being an Olympic champion while going to school. And for a long time, I tried to live a good life, doing what I thought I was supposed to do, and I just kind of got sick of it. And in college, I did a lot of drinking and partying. I was smoking weed and experimenting with other drugs, and things seemed to be going well in my life. Most people would have considered me a good person, but a lot of things were falling apart. I was going to Bible study on the weekends, but it really didn't mean anything. And I was trying to live a good life, but the more I wandered from Christ, the more destruction happened in my life. I was getting sick, and I was getting injured on the wrestling mat, and I was struggling to keep competing. And when I was competing, I was having the results I wanted, but that slowly started to fade when I couldn't wrestle. And I was doing a lot of chasing women around, and it really wore on me. And about the time of my first shoulder surgery was when I started to face life. I had a complete reconstruction of my shoulder, and they told me to take me out for up to 2 years, and I was really depressed because things weren't going well with my girlfriend, and we were living together, and the surgery kind of put ties between us, and I was really struggling. And during this time, I was really trying to get my life together and follow Christ, but I just couldn't seem to do it on my own. That's what I was trying to do, was be good on my own. And eventually, after I got back in the mat, I got back into drinking. My girlfriend and I broke up, and I hit the partying life pretty hard. I got drunk one night and got in my car and wrapped it around a tree and spent the night in jail. And it was kind of a wake-up call of where I was in my life and how far I'd fallen. And I'd like to say that my life turned around at that point, but really I was just sinking deeper into depression. I showed up drunk to my court hearing a month later, and I was just kind of struggling to stay afloat. The only thing that seemed to tie together was wrestling. But then a short time after, I fell on my shoulder again and had to go in again for surgery, and it crushed me. I was broke. I had failed out of school at this point. I was living alone, and I found myself sitting in an empty room, just talking to God and just wondering how this happened to me, how I'd fallen so far. And one night I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't take the weight of my own sin on my shoulders, and I got down on my knees and I accepted Christ in my life. And from that moment on, I wanted to follow with everything in me. And I struggled with the same sin and temptation, and I really wanted to do good, but I was struggling to give it up to Christ. And slowly He started to take those things away from me. And it's amazing what He did in my life. He took me from a drunken fool running around to a man called into ministry. And a year after I accepted Christ in my life, I accepted the calling to go into ministry, and I left school and started pursuing that route, and God's blessed me ever since. And times are still hard and I still struggle, but I always see God reigning through in my life, and I always see the blessings that He pours down on me. Before I came to Mount Vernon, I was at a big church, and it was a great church, but it wasn't really much of a family. And when I started going to Mount Vernon, I felt that family, and I felt welcome, and I felt a part of a family. And it's just been a blessing to feel the body of Christ moving and working together the way it should be. And I really love it here at Mount Vernon, and I'm so thankful that God brought me here.